Science is moving at a progressive rate, which means that the challenges that we felt had years to ferment are now on the very edge of delivery across the piece. So I would say that the role of faith and investment to deliver the Paris Agreement is clear. We have the absolute requirement to deliver. We must face up to the challenge, and we must act directly. This is our problem. It's not somebody else's problem. We are the ones who have to move forward, have to take action, and have to ensure success. So I would say that the financial risks are absolute if we fail, as they are for the planet writ large. But equally, the financial opportunities, if we get this right, are huge, not only in terms of conventional financial reward, but also in a sustainable planet and in vastly improved distribution of wealth and fairness to all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much, James. You're absolutely right. We do not have a second chance, so thank you for emphasising that. But then also the upsides and the potential to improve the redistribution of wealth, very important, and issues such as stranded assets moving forward. For our next part of the programme, we're going to move into a panel session which is being led by Dorsey. She is the Executive Director of the Wallace Global Fund, aka Superwoman. And we are delighted to have her moderating this panel, but also everyone should be taking their hats off for the amazing work she has done for the Divest movement. So over to you.
How's this for sound? Can you hear me? Is it working?
No.
No.
Yeah.
It is now? Okay, I can boo if it's not working. You know, it is rare that we see a truly global social movement appear. It's happened only a few times in human history. And right now we're watching a truly global social movement calling for institutions and individuals to divest their assets from fossil fuels and invest in climate solution, a people's climate finance movement. And I say that, and I'll come back to this later, at a moment where, coming from where I live, we need hope. And it is a truly beautiful thing to see this hydra-headed, explosive, passionate social movement, where people are taking control of their own investments and calling for the investments of institutions and communities that they are part of, and saying it is no longer acceptable to either profit from or drive the fossil fuel industry, and we can no longer leave our money on the table when that money can be used to accelerate the energy transition and bring energy to parts of the world that currently do not even have access to electricity. So my job is to set the table for this panel discussion, and I'll just say a couple of things. In the wake of the failures of the Copenhagen climate meeting, and in the US, the failure of climate policy, a small group of students began to strategize as to whether they could get their universities to divest from coal, from other fossil fuels, and invest in the new energy economy and the jobs of their future, of the students' future. And they began a campaign. It quickly went from 8 campuses in 2011 to 40 campuses. Then in 2011, Carbon Tracker Initiative, and we'll hear from Mark Campanelli in a moment, published a groundbreaking analysis of the unburnable carbon. The fact that 70 to 80% of the reserves of the leading fossil fuel companies could never be burned, or it would take the planet past the 2 degrees Celsius warming. So the ethical call to action that the students initially laid out was married by a very smart financial analysis. The divestment actions and Mark's analysis were tied together by a leading public intellectual, Bill McKibben, and he published an article in Rolling Stone and a match was lit. And 40 campuses went to 400 overnight and spread rapidly to faith groups, foundations, cities, hospitals, pension funds, and it continues to grow exponentially every day. Divestment was an on-ramp for activism. And as was said by Mark earlier, and some of you may not have been in the room, in 2014, the first divestment announcement was made, really only 2.5 years into the movement's first seeds of growth. And at that point, 52 billion in assets under management had already explicitly committed to some form of divestment. Within a year, it grew to 2.4 trillion, and by Paris, 2.7 trillion, and by Paris, 3.4. We're now sitting at the cusp of another announcement, and it will have new institutions coming forward as well as new data about the assets under management. What began as an ethical and moral call to action was bolstered by powerful financial arguments and analysis. And now the third leg of the stool, or the third leg of the movement, is fiduciary duty. It's increasingly recognized that it's actually investors' fiduciary duty to divest from fossil fuels because your investments are at risk in the energy transition that is currently underway. We are in the middle of the end of the fossil fuel era. Might be hard to see right now, and it's particularly hard to see from the United States this week. But we are in the middle of that transition. And investors that are not looking at the climate risk to their investment portfolio are in fact neglecting their fiduciary duty. So why have faith and foundations really stepped up? Over 100 faith institutions have committed to divest. Over 150 foundations around the world have committed to divest and invest, very importantly, invest as well. What is uniquely important about these two sectors? Mission, alignment of purpose, and leadership. I would say those three things. I'll say this quickly and then I'll introduce our panel. As mission-driven institutions, we are established to serve the public good. We receive charitable tax status because we serve the public good. And if our investments arguably are driving a global crisis that impacts the entire world's population, we have a unique responsibility to look at this through our mission lens. Secondly, alignment of purpose, and Mark spoke eloquently about this. Our investments should not be undercutting our programs. My foundation funds projects on climate change, combating climate change, with 5% of our assets. We make grants with 5% of our assets. But like most foundations, we have 100% of our investments divorced from our mission and from our program. It became very clear